July 27th, 1892. Dear Martha, I can't remember ever being as happy as when I wrote you yesterday. What a day, what a victory. All this, we don't have to worry about Jimbo Dutt anymore. Pap, Daniel, and I had a celebration dinner at the Liberty Bell. They served us a fine meal. We did a lot of smiling, hugging, and staring at each other in wonderment. But none of us felt like talking much, really. There are too many stories to tell. All that will come later. We're just glad to be together. Pap said, "It's going to take some getting used to that you are alive, Teddy. For months now, your mom and I thought you were dead. It about killed us to think that we had lost 2 children in just 1 month. We've missed you more than you can imagine." I said, "But why, Pap? Why did you think I was dead?" Pep said, "Your mama was bad off sick. So was I, for a while. But when I got to where I could stand and walk again, I started searching all over to find you. I searched every quarantine station. When I got to the last one, the one run by Mrs. Plum, she was gone. So I didn't get to talk to her directly. But I did find Miss Essie Mae Pitts. I asked her if she had seen you. And she said, 'Oh, Dalton, I have the saddest news to tell you. Your little Teddy is gone. A few nights ago, she died. They came and took her body in the night.'" I said, "Miss Essie Mae told you that?" I was stunned, puzzled. Maybe Miss Essie Mae just assumed I had died, or maybe she was confused from the fever, or for some reason, maybe the girl who had helped me told her I died. Pap said, "It like to have killed me to hear that. And the worst part was telling your mama. She was already grieving so over Dylan. Telling her about you almost did her in. She even gave up the will to live." I said, "So that's why you didn't come looking for me. I wondered about that a lot." Pap said, "Do you have any word of our whereabouts?" I said, "At Mrs. Plum's quarantine station, the head soldier told me that a Mr. and Mrs. Bodain had died. I refused to believe him. I looked for you and Mama for days. I went to every quarantine station, every hospital. I felt so lost and alone." Pap said, "I'm sure you did. We at least had each other, but you were all alone." I said, "I was until Daniel found me. I didn't want to believe it at first, but we eventually realized we were cousins." Pap grinned. "Daniel, I didn't mean to stare so when I met you, but seeing you at this age is like looking at myself. I'll show you a picture I have of me, and you won't believe it's not you you'll be seeing." After supper, Pap wanted to send a telegram to Mama so she wouldn't be so shocked at seeing me in person. I said, "Does she know I'm alive?" Pap said, "No. The telegram we received just said, 'Bodain's come to Juneau Courthouse tomorrow, 2 o'clock emergency.' It didn't say anything about you, Teddy." I smiled. "Then the first you knew of me was when you saw me standing there in front of the judge?" Pap smiled. "Great day in the morning." I didn't know what to think. All of a sudden, a boy I didn't even recognize stands up and shouts, "I can, that's my father, Dalton Bodain." My eyes almost popped out of my head. I was so surprised. "You cut off all your hair." Then I heard that scrappy little voice of yours telling everybody what for, and I knew it was you. It's a wonder I didn't keel over dead from the shock of it all. We spent the night at Miss Molly Baden's bed and breakfast. I could hardly sleep because I was thinking about 100 things at once, so I spent the time writing to you. I felt the gold bracelet on my arm. It always makes me feel good, like I own something precious. I was holding on to that bracelet when I finally quit thinking and fell asleep. Love, Teddy. July 28th, 1892. Dear Martha, Pap was delighted to see Gabriel. He said, "I had no idea I'd ever see you again, old boy." I said, "Miss Melman has been keeping him for you. She has Girlie, too." Pap said, "That Miss Melman is a good soul. Your mama will be glad to hear news of Girlie." He was also glad to see Ethelbert, who jumped in his lap and tried to lick his face. Pap said, "Ethel, I do believe you were happy to see me. Don't you look healthy and nice?" Pap, Daniel, and I took a steamer, the Southern Odyssey, from Juneau Beach up to Fort Pierce. Daniel led Gabriel up a ramp to the lower deck and tied him in a stall. The three of us and Ethelbert sat in deck chairs. Miss Molly had sent a hamper of food, tomatoes, ham sandwiches, sliced watermelon, deviled eggs, celery sticks, and chocolate cake. Pap said, "It's a feast, don't you think, Daniel?" Daniel said, "Yes, sir. It's a feast, all right." The three of us enjoyed our meal as the steamer chugged steadily northward. We had sent Mama a second telegram telling her the boat would dock at Fort Pierce sometime around 4 o'clock. I said, "Pap, why are you and Mama in Fort Pierce?" He said the Carters are going to be buying a place somewhere near there, and their relatives own a big, roomy boarding house. They let the Carters room there while they're waiting on everything to fall into place. Mrs. Carter stayed to help with the fever victims, so we found each other again when your Mama was healing. They asked us to stay with them until we can get our feet back under us, so to speak. I said to Daniel, "You'll love the Carters." The steam engine started slowing, and the captain turned the bow of the boat toward the shore. Lots of people stood together in groups on the deck, waving. As we got closer, I saw Martin Carter, and then Miss Emily. I saw Mr. and Mrs. Carter, and then there was Mama. She had a smile as big as Texas. My heart was thumping something terrible. I had looked forward to this day forever. Sometimes I didn't know if I would ever see Mama's face again. Almost before they got the gangplank in place, I was running towards her. We both burst out crying at the same time, hugging each other like we would never let go. There was so much to tell, so much to say. I felt like it all wanted to burst out at the same time. We gripped each other like that for a long time. Then Mama looked at my face. She said, "Teddy, you've come back to me. I thought I'd lost you forever, but what happened to your hair?" I laughed. It's a long story. I've been a boy and Daniel's been a girl. Suddenly I remembered Daniel. I said, "Mama, there's someone you got to meet. This is Daniel Bodain. He's our cousin. His parents are dead and he was all alone, but now he's with us." Mama looked at Daniel. She said, "I know you. I got a picture of Dalton that could be your twin brother." She wrapped her arms around him and said, "Welcome, Daniel. Welcome to the family." Daniel was too shy to say anything, but he hugged her back real hard. Then Mama said, "Teddy, now I have someone I want you to meet." Mama turned to Mrs. Carter, and she put a bundle in Mama's arms. Mama then turned to me and opened the blanket. Inside was the most adorable little baby girl I've ever seen. She had soft brown curls and huge brown eyes. When she saw me, she laughed and kicked her feet. She reached her arms out to me, and I took her. Mama said, "This is a day of surprises and love and new family members. Meet your baby sister. Love, Teddy." July 29th, 1892. Dear Martha, when Mama said, "Meet your baby sister," I was stupefied. How could this be? I knew Mama was not expecting a baby when the yellow fever struck us, and this baby is almost a year old. I said, "Mama, where'd she come from?" Mama said, "She's a flower that grew in the garden of sickness and death." Pap said, "Why don't we save all our stories for later, when we got time to tell all the details? We got a lot of catching up to do." We went back to the Carter's house. It was good to see Miss Emily and Martin and their baby, Lucy. Daniel helped the men find a place for Gabriel and our little wagon. Mama put the new baby in the playpen with Lucy, and two babies played happily. I helped Mama, Miss Emily, and Miss Carter fix supper. We were all exploding. Wanted to ask each other questions, but Pap reminded us to wait till after supper so we could all hear things together. We gathered around Miss Carter's big table. We held hands, and Mr. Carter asked the blessing. Before he was done, he said, "Lord, thank you for bringing these wayward lambs back into the fellowship of their family." Mama squeezed my hand. I squeezed hers back, and I also squeezed Daniel's. We had a jolly supper, but it didn't last too long. Everyone was waiting to get to the living room so the talking could begin. I wish you could have heard it all in person instead of just reading it in a letter. When we were all seated, I burst out, "Tell me about the baby." Mama smiled. Pap said, "Your mother was terribly ill with yellow fever. She was weak." Miss Carter said, "Near death, that's the truth of it." Pap said, "She was already heartbroken over losing Dylan, and then, when the news came along about you, Teddy," Pap put his hand over his eyes. Miss Carter said, "The news that you were dead was the last straw. I think Grace was about ready to just lay down and die right then." Mama said, "I was." She took over telling the story. There was a woman in the next bed who was very sick with the fever. She had already lost her husband, 2 sons, and a daughter. She had no other relatives. Her baby daughter was sick, too, and lay in the bed beside her mother. I could barely hold up my head myself, but we would talk a little bit. One night the woman said, "Grace, would you take my baby if anything happens to me?" I said, "Oh, honey, you're going to make it." But in the morning, I saw that she had not. Her baby was wet, soaked through, and so weak she could hardly cry. She was snuggled against her mother on the pallet next to mine. When I opened my eyes and looked at her, she reached out for me. I didn't even know her name, but I knew I had to take her. She didn't have anyone else to care for her, and I wasn't going to let her go to an orphanage. Not when I had lost 2 children of my own. So I pulled her over to me, changed her, helped her to get well. No one at the quarantine station even noticed. They had so many people dying and so many new ones coming in. They just took the mother away, and that was it. I never knew her name either. I said, "She's beautiful, Mama." I picked up the baby. She lay her head on my shoulder. I squeezed her tight. Mama said, "Isn't she?" I said, "What did you name her?" Mama said, "When Dylan died, you gave him your most precious possession, so he wouldn't be all alone." Now, here I was all alone, and another woman had given me her most precious possession. I thought about your gift to Dylan, and the name seemed perfect. I named her Veronica. Martha, why is it that when we're the happiest, we cry? Love, Teddy. July 30th, 1892. Dear Martha, I hope you've been well. I'll be glad when I receive your letters. I was telling you about being reunited with Mama. It felt strange to sleep in the same house with her and Pap, but it was wonderful. This morning we woke up to a house full of people and delicious breakfast. I'm so glad I'm not out on my own anymore. I had some great adventures and some fun times with Daniel, but it's good to just be a kid again with parents to take care of me. One thing I enjoy is playing with Veronica. She's younger than Dylan was, but she does some of the same baby things he used to do. My heart still hurts when I think of Dylan, but Veronica's helping us all heal. She's so happy. I wish you could hear her trying to talk. If all goes well, we're leaving this week to drive down to where our land is. Today Pap is expecting our covered wagon to arrive. He and Mama made a claim at the government office weeks ago before they left Gainesville. And it's taken this long to sort out all the paperwork. Pap would have had to pay a man $100 to drive the wagon down from Gainesville to Fort Pierce, but they agreed that the government would pay. So, with a little bit of luck, our wagon will be here today. We're hoping that all of our household goods and staples will be there. Mama's not worried because she said she never expected to see the wagon again, and anything we get back will be a blessing. Pap and Mr. Carter and Martin went last week to pick up Jeb in January from Captain Walsh. So our 2 oxen are in the stable here with Gabriel. We're just missing Girlie, but we're hoping to find a way to get her from Miss Melman. Mama says it'd be nice to have cow milk with a baby in the house again. Because we were able to file our land deed, the bank gave Pap a special loan for us to build a house and a barn. So Pap and Mama sketched out our new house. It'll have a porch on the front, also have a main room for living, bedroom for Pap and Mama, bedroom for me and Veronica, and a loft for Daniel. It'll have a kitchen that has running water, a pantry, a back porch, and an outhouse. Mama lit up like the 4th of July when she and Pap worked out all the plans. We went shopping this afternoon to buy all the building materials we will need to put up our new house. Until the house is ready, Daniel and Pap will sleep outside under the wagon, and Mama and Veronica and I will sleep in the wagon. At the lumberyard, Pap and the man who was in charge went over the plans that Pap and Mama made. They did lots of ciphering and made measurements and did a lot of figuring about how much lumber we'll need, how many window panes, how many doors, things like that. At the catalog store, Mama picked out a sofa, 2 chairs, a rocking chair, a bed for her and Pap, bed for Veronica, Daniel, and me, and a few other pieces of furniture we'll need. Mom and I are so excited. We've never owned new furniture before. At the dry goods store, we picked out fabric for curtains, tablecloths, bed linens. Mama picked fabric for some new dresses for me and gowns for Veronica. She picked out overalls and jeans for Daniel, shirts, a belt, new shoes. Martha, I wish you could have seen him. He was overjoyed with new things. We will wait to see what all comes in the wagon if it arrives. If the wagon comes and our goods are undisturbed, we should have food supplies. Mom will make other purchases before we leave Fort Pierce. All the new purchases will be delivered to the land that is now officially ours. Pap had to pay extra to have everything delivered because our wagon would never hold it all. Martha, I feel strange. For weeks and weeks I was alone. I didn't know if I had a future or not. I didn't know if we'd ever own our own land. I didn't know for sure if I would ever see Mama and Pap again. Now it's all coming true. I'm happy, but there are times I feel like crying too. I don't know why I'd cry, but at times life just overwhelms me. You ever feel that way too? Love, Teddy. July 31st, 1892. Dear Martha, our wagon arrived. Everything is fine. Nothing broken. All our food supplies are in good order. Seeing the wagon again made us happy and sad at the same time. It reminded us of all the good memories of our trip, but it also made us sad that we weren't able to finish the journey with the rest of the wagon train. It made us cry to see Dylan's little seat, his playpen, his tiny clothes and toys. But it was like coming home. The wagon helped me feel like I'm in the right place and that I belong again. Just the smell of it, the linseed oil on the canvas, the smell of the wood, the smell of the kegs of supplies, the food barrels, were friendly, homey smells. Today, Daniel and I helped Mama and Pap pull everything out of the wagon. We set our supplies and bedding out on the ground. Then we swept the inside of the wagon until there wasn't a grain of dirt or sand anywhere. Mama and I oiled the canvas with linseed oil. Pap and Daniel loaded all the compartments and buckets with animal feed, fresh water, and kindling for starting fires. We reloaded everything back into the wagon, so tomorrow we'll be able to start driving down to our new land. The plan is, in 2 weeks, all the carters will come down and help us build part of the house. Then the rest of the building will have to be up to Pap, Daniel, and me. Our lumber and crates of furniture should be delivered to our new land sometime next week. Oh, Martha, we're so excited. Daniel said my Pap was a carpenter. I learned a lot from him, so I can help you build. Pap said, it'll be a fine thing to have you helping me. I need another set of strong arms. I don't think Pap could have said anything that would have made Daniel happier. He's still shy because he's not used to being around I don't think Pap could have said anything that would have made Daniel happier. He's still shy because he's not used to being part of a family. Even when his Pap was alive, it was just the two of them. And they didn't even eat regular meals. I talked to Mama about it, and she said that boy like Daniel will... I talked to Mama about it, and she said that a boy like Daniel will have to work his way into feeling comfortable in our family. I think the new house will be good for us. I think the new house will be good for us all. It'll be a fresh start, so all the memories we make, all the adventures we have will be new. The stories I want to tell you, my family haven't all come out at once. The stories I want to tell my family haven't all come out at once, like I expected them to, but sometimes they come out when I least expect them. This afternoon we went fishing with the Carters, and while we were waiting for the fish to bite, I told the story of staying with Wanda Watson and going fishing with her. Mama and Pap were fascinated that she was so old in years and yet so spry. Mama said, "How did you get to her house, Teddy?" I told her about walking from where Joe, the cotton farmer, left us off at the end of the road. Pap said, "And you two left her place in what kind of boat?" Daniel said, "A john boat. It's like a rowboat, but with flatter bottom. We poled down the spring and up the river for a few days." Mama said, "Teddy, what an adventure." And I said, "Mama, since I saw you last, I rode across the sky in a big, big balloon." Mama said, "You didn't." I said, "Daniel and I rescued Ethelbert from Dr. Zorn again." Pap said, "That scoundrel that makes the elixir?" I said, "And we rode elephants." Daniel said, and we marched in the 4th of July parade with John Philip Sosa. Mama said, you met John Philip Sosa. Daniel said, he gave us each a silver dollar. The truth is, Martha, that I have had an incredible experience these last few months. Good or bad, those memories have become part of me now. Part of you. The truth is, Martha, that I have had an incredible experience. The truth is, Martha, that I have had incredible experiences these last few months. Good or bad, those memories have become part of me and now part of you too, because of my letters. Love, Teddy. August 1st, 1892. Dear Martha, today was another one of those days when I wish you could have been with me. It was a good day, Martha. Why do we have to live so far away from each other? We are headed to our new land. Pap has a map that was given to him by the man at the land deed office in Juneau. It shows exactly where our new land will be. Mama's driving the wagon. Veronica is sitting beside her in the little chair Pap made for Dylan. Pap is riding Gabriel and Daniel is riding Swift. Oh, I forgot to tell you about Swift. Pap bought a beautiful new horse from Mr. Ample, a man in Fort Pierce. She's just 2 years old and she's gorgeous. Pap took me with him to buy her. He said, Teddy, this being part of a family is new for Daniel. He's been on his own for a long time. I think he needs something of his own, something that is all his, something he can take care of. You think he'd like to have a horse? I could see where Pap was going with this. Part of me was envious, I'll admit. I would have loved to have my own horse. I would have loved to have owned a horse of my own. Hadn't I been away from my parents out on my own? Didn't I deserve something special for all I'd been through? But I could also see what Pap was trying to do for Daniel. I knew that this was right. I swallowed hard to keep my disappointment down. I said, I think a horse would be the perfect gift for Daniel. Pap let me pick her out. Well, that wasn't hard. She was the best-looking horse in the lot, and very gentle and obedient. Pap checked her out carefully. He looked at each of her hooves and her teeth, ran his hand over her withers, and watched her gait. When he was satisfied, he paid Mr. Ample and tied her behind the little wagon we had come in. We drove off. When he was satisfied, he paid Mr. Ample, tied her behind the little wagon we had come in, and we drove the wagon home. I wanted to name her. I had all kinds of great names picked out. Pap said, well, now, you could do that. We could give Daniel a horse that you've already named. You think he'd like that? Rats. Why do I always have to do the right thing? I said, you're right. He'd probably like to name her himself. When we got home, Daniel, Mama, Veronica, and the Carters came out to the stable to see her. And Daniel said, that is the prettiest horse I've ever seen. Everyone agreed. Pap said, I asked Teddy to pick her out. She did a good job, didn't she? Daniel said, Teddy, you're one lucky duck. And I said, well, this horse isn't for me. It's for another lucky duck. Daniel didn't get it. He said, who's that? I said, start quacking. He stared at me. It's you, silly. We picked her out for you. Daniel said, for me? Nuh-uh. Who's she? Really? Pap said, she's for you, Daniel. You'll need a horse to ride on our property. She's yours. I watched Daniel's face as he tried to understand that this exquisite new horse was for him. I looked at Pap's face, too, as he winked at me. The happiness I felt for Daniel almost made up for the fact that the horse was for him and not me. Daniel says, does she have a name? Pap said, nope. That's for you to decide. Daniel said, me? I don't know what to name her. Teddy, will you help me name her? We spent the rest of the afternoon thinking up names. We finally decided on Swift. Daniel said, I like the name. It's short, and it means faster than fast. It always feels good when you do the right thing. August 2nd, 1892. Dear Martha, today on our way to our new place, we stopped to see Lake Okeechobee. I never knew a lake could be so big. We all walked up on the levee to see it. Martha, the lake stretches as far as you can see. It's not very deep, about 12 feet in the deepest parts, but Pap said he heard it's teeming with fish. Mama said, how could anyone ever starve in country like this? Pap said to me and Daniel, how about the three of us come back sometime and go fishing? We agreed that we would be a bushel load. We agreed that would be a We agreed that would be a bushel load of fun. I would love any adventure that involves Pap and Daniel. Of course, it would be even better if you could be with us too. I'm still hoping you can visit. We drove for a few more hours and then we were here. Pap said, according to the map, this is it. This is our land. Mama stood on the wagon seat and shaded her eyes. She looked all around. Then she said, Dalton Bodain, I do believe we are home. Home? This will be our new home. It doesn't feel like home yet, but that'll come later. We drove all around the property. We have 40 acres, and a spring runs along the eastern side of our land. The land is pretty scruffy, but there are a few large oak trees clustered near the spring. Mama said, Dalton, let's put the wagon here so we can make use of the shade. The spring will be nice for cooking and bathing. Pep said, it's big enough to swim in. What do you think, children? Want to try it out later? We cheered, and Ethelbert ran around in circles. Daniel and Pap unhitched the oxen and watered the animals. Mama said, Teddy, we have an extra canvas. Remember when your Pap tied it up so that Girlie wouldn't get away in the rain? Mama said, Teddy, we have an extra canvas. Remember when Pap tied it up so that Girlie wouldn't get wet in the rain? Well, we can make an awning that will give us more shade and keep a bigger space dry if it rains. I found the canvas. Daniel and I shook it out while Pap raked the ground where Mama wanted to stretch the canvas. While Pap and Daniel cut branches and stripped the leaves and bark, Mom and I painted the tarp with linseed oil. She said, we're getting pretty good at this. Don't you think, Teddy? I love the familiar smell of linseed oil. I'd slept so many nights under that smell. I felt like it had become part of me. By late afternoon, we had the wagon parked under the oaks. A patch of ground cleared of rocks and sticks, raked smooth, and a canvas awning stretched out from the side of the wagon to 4 tall wood poles. It was pretty good for half a day's work. Pap said, what do you say we go swimming in the spring? Mama said, with all this work to do, you want to go swimming? Pap said, yes, I do. And I want my wife and children to go with me. Mama smiled. All right then, let me get on some old clothes and get the baby ready. We splashed and played in the spring for at least an hour. It felt wonderful. I didn't realize how hot and sweaty we all were until we were cooling off in the clear flowing water of the spring. Our spring. We own land. We own trees. We own a spring. It seems hard to believe. This place is ours. Daniel made a campfire, a good one. Pep said, son, somebody taught you well. It's about as fine a campfire as I've seen. Daniel said, my Pap taught me. Pep said, I'm sure I would have liked him. Too bad I didn't get to meet him, but I'll get to know him through you, Daniel. Mom and I fixed dinner. Guess what? Our jerky is still good. Can you believe it? Love, Teddy. August 26, 1892. Dear Martha, haven't had time to write because we've had so much to do. It reminds me of when Daniel and I first joined the circus. We were so tired our hands ached at night. Well, it's been like that around here. I have a lot of good things to tell you. The best thing is, we had a house raising. Our lumber was delivered here a few days ago. We were expecting the Carters to come because Pap and Mr. Carter and Martin talked about it before we left Fort Pierce. Since we filed our land deed first, we need a home first. They agreed to come help us build it. Then, when they get their land, which should be pretty soon, we'll go help them build their house. As I said, we were expecting the Carters, but we were not expecting all the other folks who came too. Mrs. Carter, Miss Emily, telegraphed everyone they could think of, and folks came from miles and miles away. Captain Walsh came and brought his 2 grown sons. The Larks came. I had no idea they were here, but suddenly a voice behind me said, what will it be, Bodain, marbles or slingshots? It was Travis. I was so glad to see him I almost gave him a bear hug. Almost. The goods came, so I got to see Minnie and Haley, and Jasper Lowe's father died of the fever, but Jasper and his mother came. The Porters came too. Remember the family whose wagon rolled down the hill? Mrs. Lowe said, "Grace, I knew you'd need someone to help with the cooking." First, Pap introduced Daniel and told a little bit about how he came to live with us. Then he held up Veronica and told the story of how she came to be his second Bodain daughter. Folks cheered for them both. People parked their covered wagons in a circle under the stand of oaks. The men set up sawhorses, saws, planes, woodworking tools, and put on overalls and boots. The women set up all the house doors and extra sawhorses end to end, so we had one long eating table. The women made an outdoor stove near the spring. They set up all the tripods, and the entire time, I don't think I ever looked over there that there wasn't a big pot of something boiling and bubbling. Travis and Daniel and Jasper were in charge of hunting up small game for some of our meals. They brought home quail, squirrel, and rabbits, and didn't they think they were so big and important. The men laid the floor first, sanding and smoothing it with planes, just so. Then the walls went up, and the walls made it very exciting because we could see what it was going to look like as a house. There were so many people working that they were finishing with the house. The men laid the floor first, sanding and smoothing it with planes, just so. Then the walls went up, and the walls made it very exciting because we could see what it was going to look like as a house. There were so many people working that they were finished with the house in about a week. But right in the middle of things, we had another huge surprise. Miss Melman and Mr. Mickelson arrived. Their excuse was that they were bringing Girlie, but I really think Miss Melman wanted to be with everyone again and to introduce her beau. Folks were so happy to see her. All the kids came running. The women hugged her neck. But what they were really interested in was finding out about Mr. Mickelson. They pestered her with questions right and left. She just grinned. Everyone worked hard during the day. The men and some of the women helped build the house. Other women cooked, and a few watched the babies and little children. Most of the time, all of us kids swam and played in the spring. After a week, when the house was finished, Martin Carter said, "I think we could get this barn up in 4 days, maybe 3. What you folks? What do you say, folks?" Pap and Mama didn't want to impose on our friends. Pap said, "This is enough. We'll get the barn." But Mr. Mickelson said, "Bodain, the house was almost finished when I got here. You're not going to cheat me out of a barn." Pap shook his head and smiled. When we kids heard that we had a few more days together, we went berserk. Travis yelled, "Last one in the swimming hole's a rotten egg." "I hope I hear from you soon. I miss you bunches and bunches. Love, Teddy." August 29th, 1892. Dear Martha, I wish you could see this place. It's been transformed from a wilderness to a homestead, a house, a home. The barn is almost up, but the real news is today our furniture arrived. None of the ladies, including Mama, has ever had store-bought furniture. Oh, maybe Miss Melman has, but if she has, she didn't let on. She oohed and awed along with everyone else. The furniture arrived and the ladies went right to work. They set up beds, put the sheets and blankets on the mattresses, hung quilts, arranged furniture, put books on shelves, hung clothes and wardrobes, and hung the portrait our family had taken at Mr. L.H. Legrand's photography studio in Meriden. When we saw Dylan in the picture, all of us cried, but not for too long. He will always be part of our family. But it gets even better. One last big box arrived with the furniture, but Pap told us not to open it. That afternoon, when all the furniture was arranged and looking beautiful, Pap asked Daniel and Travis to help him unwrap the special box. He wouldn't let anyone else, including me, in there. When it was in place, he covered it with one of Mama's quilts. We had a big dinner together, and then folks gathered by our front porch. Miss Melman had cut a grapevine from the woods and fashioned it into a wreath for the front door. She wove wildflowers into it, and it was just the prettiest thing you ever saw. When we gathered, Pap asked Mr. Milkison to pray a prayer of dedication on our house. His words were full of thanksgiving that no one had been hurt in building this house. He must not have known about the big splinter I got in my toe. And he ended the prayer by saying, "Bless this house, O Lord, we pray. Make it safe by night and day." Then Pap stood on the porch. He took his hat off and held it in his hands. He said, "None of this could be possible without the love and support of good friends and family. None of this would be possible without a good woman standing by my side and precious children to bring happiness and laughter." Then he did something that shocked us all. He picked Mom up in his arms and said, "Grace, I want to carry you over the threshold of your new house." And he carried her inside. Everyone laughed about that, like Pap and Mama were newlyweds. I saw Mr. Milkison look at Miss Melman and raise their eyebrows. But the surprises weren't over yet. Folks crowded inside the house and admired all the furniture. Then Mr. Carter said in a loud voice, "Dalton, what's this here?" Pap said, "One more thing. Then I promise you folks can go to bed." Mama looked at him curiously. "My wife left Mississippi without complaining. She endured a long trip down here and many hardships along the way. This is my thank you present to her." While we all looked on, Pap and Mr. Carter took the quilt off, and there was a beautiful piano. Mom was so astounded, she didn't know what to say. She put her hands on her cheeks. The look on Pap's face was priceless. He was so proud. I was happy for him and Mama. Mama said, "This is almost the best present I've ever received." Pap was feeling his oats. He said, "Almost the best present? What could be a better present than a brand spanking..." Pap was feeling his oats. He said, "Almost the best present? What could be a better present than a brand spanking new piano?" You could tell he was joking, but people waited to hear what Mama would say. She motioned for me and Daniel to come to her. She took Veronica from Miss Emily. Mama held us tight. She said, "This." I heard sniffling, and some folks wiped their eyes with their handkerchiefs. Mama said, "Miss Melman, would you please play this new piano for us?" Miss Melman said, "We would love to hear you play it, Grace. I think you're ready." And Martha, I don't even have to tell you what song Mama played. Pap's gift to Mama was the piano, but Mama's gift to all of us was her beautiful playing. Ethelbert came and lay his head on my lap. My heart was so full of happiness, I felt like I could fly off into the night. Love, Teddy. August 30th, 1892. Dear Martha, this morning the men finished the barn. Everything is complete. Captain Walsh drove to the trading post and bought a wagon load of bedding, straw, and some hay for the animals. Travis, Daniel, Minnie, Haley, Jasper, and I spread it out in the barn for Jeb in January. Gabriel, Gurley, and Swift. Sad thing is that everyone left today. We hated to see him leave. We were mourning about it, being sad and all, but Minnie reminded us that we'll probably be We hated to see them leave. We were mourning about it, being sad and all. But Minnie reminded us that we'll probably be together again when the Carters get their land in a few weeks. That made saying goodbye a little easier. Before she left, Miss Melman said, "Teddy, it was good to see you. Promise me you'll come visit." I smiled and said, "Would there be any special occasion that might be coming up that I would want to attend?" She pinched the tip of my nose and said, "Maybe." She blushed. She and Mr. Milkison seem very fond of each other. I want her to be happy. Miss Emily said, "I made you a few dresses before I came. They're hanging in your wardrobe." Minnie said, "Promise to write, Teddy. I'll miss you." Travis whispered, "You look like a boy, Bodain. Grow out your hair so you'll be pretty again." I said, "Hush up, Travis. Oh, that boy." Haley said, "Let me see your gold bracelet one more time." Ooh. Jasper said, "I hope I get to come back sometime." Mr. Milkison said, "I haven't had this much fun since I was a kid. Come see us, Daniel and Teddy." We watched their wagons leave, waving, calling our goodbyes. And then it was just us, the Bodains, standing on the porch. It was a strange feeling. I felt happy about a lot of things. A new house, new barn, new sister. I felt sad at the same time. Sad down to my bones. That night, none of us talked. Much. I guess we were each lost in our own thoughts, as Mama says. When Veronica finally went to sleep, Mama came to me with a lantern. She said, "Want to go to the spring with me to bathe tonight?" I said sure. Bathing in the spring sounded like fun. Mama had her French soap, a hairbrush, 2 big towels, and our nightgowns. The lantern lit our way. The spring water was just right. We bathed with the French soap and Mama washed my hair. It felt luxurious. I remembered how she had washed it months ago when we were in the wagon train. She brushed it with her brush and said, "Soon you'll look like a girl again." When we finished, we walked back to the house and sat in a swing on the front porch. The swing was Miss Melman's gift to us for our new house. We sat side by side. Mama put her arm around me and drew me to her. I put my head on her shoulder. I said, "Mama, I'm so happy. I want you to know that. But sometimes I feel like crying. Why is that?" Mama put her hand on my cheek. She said, "That's just life, Teddy. We love people. We lose some people along the way. People share their lives with us. They share their love with us. And sometimes our hearts get so full of it all, we don't know whether to laugh or cry." It made sense when Mama said that. Sitting next to her again was a dream come true. Then Mama said, "But the good thing is, we're home. Finally, we're home." I said, "How do you know, Mama? How do you know this is really home?" Mama smiled, because just this morning as the sun was peeking up over the horizon, I heard the red bird sing his cheery little song. And as he was singing, I knew he was saying, "Welcome home. Love, Teddy." September 3rd, 1892. Dear Martha, after I talked with Mama, I needed to get off by myself and figure out what was making me feel like my shoes were on the wrong foot. I asked myself, what is it? This is everything I've hoped for. Mama and Papa are alive. We're on our own land. Daniel's part of the family. We have a new baby. She's adorable. So why do I feel like something still needs to be done? I puzzled about those things for a long time. There's a big flat rock that's near the spring, not too far from the house. It is a perfect place to be myself. It is a perfect place to be by myself. After a while, I figured it out, and coming up with the answer was like scratching an itch that I could finally reach. I had come through a journey, but it was not complete. I had met people along the way that had taken me in or helped me in some way. Those people meant something to me, even though I might have just known them for a little while. I wanted to let them know that I had found Mama and Pat. I needed to let them know. For some reason, I felt... For some reason, my life felt like a circle that was still open and needed closing. Wanda Watson had said, "I'd love to know you got to where you're going." That was it. I needed to let folks know that I was finally home with my family. I spent the last 3 days writing letters and drawing pictures. I wrote to Mrs. Plum, thanked her for taking care of me while I was sick. I said I was sorry I had to run away, but I was afraid of being put in an orphanage and never seeing Mama and Pap again. I told her that I finally found Mama and Pap alive, and I sent the letter to Mrs. Plum's quarantine station, Gainesville, Florida. I wrote to Dr. Winklepeck, thanked her for letting me sleep in her brother's feed store and for the balloon ride. I included a drawing of the balloon with me. Ethel and her and I wrote to Dr. Winklepeck and thanked her for letting me sleep in her brother's feed store and for the balloon ride. I included a drawing of the balloon with me, Ethel, and her in the gondola. I didn't know where else to send it, so I sent it to the feed store in care of her brother, Carl Winklepeck. I wrote to Carlene Green and her family. I thank Mrs. Green for taking me in and making me feel welcome, and for the pretty pink dress with the white pinafore. I told them about Verna and Jimbo and how I had to run away. That was the longest letter because I had to tell them just about everything up until now. I drew a picture of me and Carlene bathing Freddie and Ethelbert. I asked Carlene to be my Florida pen pal, and I hope she writes back. I wrote to Wanda Watson, thanked her for being so kind to me and Daniel. I thanked her for the delicious fried fish, and for the story about the firefly, and for the clothes, and the boat. I told her that of all the people I met, I loved her most of all. I drew her a picture. I drew a picture of her, me, and Daniel fishing in her creek. I asked her to please tell Joe that we thank him for helping us to get away in his cotton wagon. I sent it to Wanda Watson, General Delivery, Orange Springs. I'm crossing my fingers that it gets to her. I wrote to Susanna and Massimo and thanked them for letting Daniel and me help take care of the elephants. I told them we would never have made it without their help. I asked them to thank Mary and Elmer and Carl Ringling. I sent them a drawing of Susanna riding Babette at the front of the parade. I told them that someday, if Mama and Papa would allow it, Daniel and I might like to come back and work with them again. I sent their letter to Baraboo, Wisconsin, the home of Ringling Circus. I wrote to John Philip Sosa and sent a drawing of him giving me and Daniel the silver dollars. I told him that I thought his marching band was the best band ever. I sent his letter to Washington, D.C. I wrote to Miss Melman and thanked her for taking us in and for the tickets for the steamer and the extra money and the clothes. I told her that I thought she was the best teacher and friend. I told her to please thank Mr. Mickelson for me. I said, P.S. Do you have something you want to tell me yet? Haha. Love, Teddy. It took me days to write all the letters and do the drawings, but as I wrote, I felt the circle closing little by little. I began to feel like the old me. That's a good thing. Now there's just one more thing I have to do. I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. Love, Teddy. October 18th, 1892. Dear Martha, I got your letters. They made me miss you even more. You will always be my best friend. I feel like you've been on this entire journey with me. Yes, school started for us too. We have a brand new school. There are 9 families who own land near us, and all of the children, including me and Daniel, go to the North Dade Rural School. We're all together, and our teacher is a man. I was shocked on the first day of school. He's nice, though, and I think he's a good teacher. His name is Amos Weathers, but we all call him Mr. Weathers. Daniel about died when he had to go to school. He didn't want to go. He's used to being on his own. I guess I thought it was going to be a big problem, but Mama had to talk with him. I don't know what all she said because I wasn't with him, but he told me later that she said, I'll make a deal with you. The first day you don't learn something at school, you don't have to go anymore. Well, that did it. Daniel was an excellent student, and you should hear him read. Mr. Weathers said he's a very intelligent student. Daniel and I ride swift to school every morning and back home in the evening. Best thing happened. Mr. Weathers allowed the 2 of us to go to Carter's house raising. We had to miss a week of school, but Mama told Mr. Weathers we would finish all of our lessons. We packed a little wagon Daniel and I bought from Nicosi with all Pap's woodworking tools and extra food supplies. We packed a big wagon that still has the canvas on it, with everything we would need to sleep outdoors for a week. We tied Girlie behind because we couldn't leave her home alone, and Pap rode Gabriel. Daniel let me ride Swift. He said for me to take a turn, he'd drive for Mama. Mama said, you sure are a blessing, Daniel Bodain. I think I might keep you. As we pulled out, Pap said, we got enough stuff to be heading out on another journey. The week at the Carter's house raising was as much fun as I was hoping it would be. Most of the same families came to help out, so once again, we had a huge circle of wagons. I got to see Minnie and Haley, Jasper Lowe, the Porters, Captain Walsh and his sons, Miss Melman, Mr. Mickelson, Miss Emily and her husband Martin. Someone came up behind me and said, I got your letter, Bodain. It was Travis Lark. I said, yeah? And are you ready? Lark, or are you scared? I'll let you back out if you don't think you're up to it. He said, I ain't scared of you. I beat you last time, and I'm going to cream you this time. You don't stand a chance. Your kite is mine. I said, you're on. In between all the work and the chores and the running errands for our parents and the laughter and the games, Travis and I each found the time to make a kite. Minnie and Haley helped me, and Jasper and Daniel helped Travis. This time we were ready for him. Our kite was beautiful, with pelicans and waves and a setting sun. We named it the Florida Belle, too. We coated our string with glue and glass and dust and let it dry overnight. Two could play at this string cutting game. The next day the crowd gathered to watch. As I expected, the boys' kite was ugly. They named it the Kite Killer. Minnie held my kite while I ran with the string. Daniel held Travis's kite while Travis ran with the string. Soon both kites were launched high in the air. I crossed Travis's line with my line. I sawed my line. He sawed his line. The crowd screamed. The tension grew. Suddenly, the Florida Belle, too, was cut free and sailed away, disappearing into the sky. Everyone cheered, and Travis took a dramatic bow. I screamed, how did you do that, you rapscallion, you? Rats, rats, and double rats. He said, that's just it. I used a double string. He laughed like only Travis Lark can laugh. Vexation. Vehement. Vexation. Vehement, vociferous vexation. I'll get him back. I swear I will. I'll write more soon, I promise. Love, Teddy. October 28th, 1892. Dear Martha, I've been reading your letters every chance I get. We are two writing maniacs, aren't we? Please don't ever stop writing me. I still can't believe you are going to come for a visit over the holidays. What a dream come true. And yes, I'll introduce you to everyone I've been talking about all these months. Daniel especially wants to meet you. He's seen me writing so many letters to you, and he's dying to know what you look like. School is going well. Another school, North Dade Circuit School, came to spend 2 days with our school. We are pen pals with them, so we finally got to meet our pen pals. Their school is 12 miles away. On Friday, we had a spelling bee, and I won the word consternation. Mr. Weathers gave Daniel a book to read, and guess what it is? The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. So every minute he's not riding swift or doing some chore for Pap, he's got his nose in the book. I never got to finish the story, so when he's through, I'm going to read it too. I have a surprise to tell you. I got a package in the mail yesterday, and there was a letter with a package. Rather than my telling you about it, I'm going to copy the letter here. You'll know why. Dear Teddy, you can't imagine my surprise upon receiving the package you sent that contained my gold bracelet. I sat in astonishment for a long while, staring, unbelieving. I was looking at a treasure that had been lost some 25 years earlier on an outing to Fanning Springs. Foolishly, I wore the bracelet while swimming, and it slipped off my arm and was lost to me. While we looked and looked, it could not be found in the sand at the bottom. I left the spring heartbroken. This special gift lost forever, I thought. That bracelet represents something very dear to me. My husband, the love of my life, had that bracelet inscribed and gave it to me for my 35th birthday, August 13th, in 1862. As I'm sure you know, the inscription reads, to Althea Tomlinson, from her loving husband Joseph, how do I love thee, let me count the ways. My Joseph was lost in the war between the states at the Battle of Vicksburg in 1863. I miss him to this day, and so, when I held the gold bracelet again, it brought back many wonderful memories of a thoughtful and gentle man who died at such a young age. Thank you for sharing the wonderful story of how you fanned for the treasure at Fanning Springs. If I'd known about fanning years ago, perhaps I would have found my bracelet and pirate treasure as well. Thank you for sharing the incredible story of your journey, Teddy, all the way from Mississippi to South Florida. I was again astonished to learn of the twists and turns your path took before you were reunited with your parents. My daughter, Alice Tomlinson Adesto, told me of meeting you at the yellow fever quarantine station outside of Gainesville. She and I have discussed the bracelet, and she agrees with my decision. My bracelet, like my dear husband, was lost to me years ago. A gold bracelet was found by an enterprising girl who was looking for treasure. This brave girl wore it on her journey through losing her baby brother, succumbing to yellow fever, being separated from her parents, having to live on her own, and surviving by her wits. The gold bracelet was a source of comfort to her, a reminder of just what you can find if you look hard enough. And so, dear Teddy, it would give me great pleasure to know that you are still wearing the bracelet as you go through life. Please receive it as my gift to you, your friend, Athalia Tomlinson. Martha, I'm wearing the bracelet now. I'm never going to take it off. Once, I felt like I lost myself, but now I feel like I found the old Teddy Bodain again. Love, Teddy.